So, welcome everybody. We just decided to start 1 hour earlier than the timer. Welcome to another LinkedIn live session, and I think it's the 5th one. And today, as the sessions before, it is all about applied improv and how we can use applied improv in business to boost the connection in your team, to boost the communication, and to boost the collaboration. My name, for those of you who haven't met me, is Tino Engel. I'm the partner and lead facilitator for a company called IMPROV Communication. And I'm here with my buddy. So welcome, Gordon, here to our 5th LinkedIn. And first question, how are you? How's life? How is improvising in life?
I'm good. You do realize you just said we were dropping an hour earlier than planned.
Oh, did I say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. I'm good. The reason we delayed the stream today was because I had a workshop this morning, which was really good fun up in a very nice Danish castle. So that was
cool.
It's beautiful weather here as well. So I'm happy. I'm good to go.
Yeah. What did you do? Like castle, and you came out alive from the castle. So how was the workshop? What was the workshop about?
This was for a large pharmaceutical company, and it's a department that has kind of come together over the last year, about 19 or 20 people. And different levels of experience, different people transferring, skills transfer into the department. And basically it's just that kind of getting to know you, team building, and the basics of, supporting each other, considering each other, and, how do we gel as a team? How do we get a common understanding as a team? So that was good fun.
I can imagine. And I just have to think about what you said earlier about that I said, which I bet you will be right. We have the recording anyway to prove that you're right. That I said an hour earlier, and that's, I think, already a good sign how important it is to bridge the gap between how we perceive ourselves, how we memorize things sometimes, and how it really happened, right? And that's, I think, already an interesting perspective on the importance of feedback. So I'm very happy to hear about the workshop and that it went so well. And I had a great conversation yesterday with a couple of trainer colleagues here nearby in Potsdam. And at one point it came up what it is that you really enjoy, also a little bit from a trainer point of view. And there was one thing that I had to think about today as well that came up yesterday. And for me, it was, and still is, enjoying the process. Enjoying the process. And I went running today, so I blocked some time to go running because I signed up for a marathon. Last year, I applied for a marathon here in Berlin. And they said yes. Yes to me. Was no clue about how running a marathon. So I started training a little bit and all those things. And I feel like running is, to me, the perfect metaphor for enjoying the process. Because there is no goal. Sometimes I'm just running through the woods in circles where you feel like there's obviously no specific destination/goal. It's just the process. And concerning the process, I think we continue with what we have done last time and walk the talk a little bit in the sense that I brought some quotes from a book. The book is called IMPROV Wisdom, Don't Prepare, Just Show Up, which, as I said last time, I think is a little bit provocative to some people. And it's from, the name of the author, I have it here, Patricia Ryan Madsen, and she was a teacher for 3 decades at the drama department in Stanford. And she's also passionate about looking for answers to the question, how can we use techniques and principles from the world of applied improv and applying them in business? And I have the tendency to always mark certain things on my Kindle or on a book. And I just picked random quotes from the book. And I would just bring them in. I will press pause and we see what comes up, and we will be in the moment as good as possible and see what our brain comes up with and talk about what it means, why we feel it is relevant also to the business world, and maybe also looking for ways how can we use it in business. What do we do with this kind of insight?
Yeah.
Ready for it, Gordon?
Oh yeah, let's go.
Cool. Then let's start with the random quotes. Let's see what happens here. So that's a long one. You already learned something how I save sometimes whole chapters. So let me read it out loud. We are clever at rejecting first thoughts. No. Später. That is what you cannot plan when you live stream and your son comes in and decide, but I got to go into that room. And I said, well, no, we have an agreement. You can't do it now. And he, at the age of 11, sees the world completely differently. Let us get back to the quote. We are clever at rejecting first thoughts. That is uninspired or boring. I don't like it. It is too revealing. Or somebody else already said that. I'm afraid of where this will lead. We are clever at rejecting first thoughts. Let's take this and let's see what it triggers in us. What does it mean to you? We are clever at rejecting first thoughts.
For me, I would say the first thing that comes to mind in rejecting first thoughts is judgment. It's especially when it comes to me personally.
Mm-hmm.
I am very, a lot of the times very self-judgmental. So if I'm trying to be creative, I very rarely just go, okay, I'm just going to put anything down, just right, and be open to that process, to then filter and get the right phraseology or whatever, the right thought that I want. And I find that really frustrating because I know it's wrong, but I've got this little thing in my mind where I want the words to come out perfectly in a perfect flow, etc. And personally, that's how I see it towards myself. That I kind of I always reject my first thought, and then it becomes self-perpetuating that I'll reject the next one, and maybe the next one, and then maybe the next one. Whereas I think if we can embrace that, let's say embracing the imperfection of our first thought, and just saying, well, that's what it is. That's the peel of the orange that you've got to get out of the way in order to get to the orange. Yeah. That's a metaphor I just came up with myself.
Good.
And the first thought might be brilliant. In fact, the first thought could be gold. But if we go into the process again, if we go into the process already judging and expecting the first thought to be awful, then we set ourselves up for for it to be perceived as that way. I think it's important that we allow that space for ourselves and for others as well to have that first thought. If we don't hear the first thought, then we're judging ourselves and other people. We have to make space for that to allow us to kind of move past it, for it to inspire others, other thoughts, etc. But it's a big problem.
I feel like this. Maybe to give some context, next week I'm in a training with two other trainer colleagues, and it's about speaking confidently. And I was also in preparation reading a lot. And one thing that I was reading is a book called The Confidence Gap, and it's really about it's written by Russ Harris, Dr. Russ Harris, and it's about something called ACT, ACT, which stands for Acceptance Commitment Therapy, and it's out there for I think 4 decades. It comes from cognitive behavioral therapy, so it's highly researched, and they spent a lot of time thinking about what to do with the thoughts, and they also observe what do people usually do. And one thing, and this is the mindfulness part in it, is we have a first thought, we like it or we don't like it, right? Yeah. If it's positive, we want to have more of it, we cling to it, and if we don't like it, we try to push it away. Think about this. We give a presentation, we are nervous. We have the thought, I might forget my text during the presentation. This usually comes along with certain emotional arousal, and we have some feelings, we get nervous, the body gets tense, and we are really trying to push away the thought. what they recommend and what really resonates with me is thought, in a sense, is just a combination of words. And they go so far that they even have exercises where it's about don't become your thoughts, it's about diffusion. Accept the thought, they come, they go, don't cling to them. Right? And I think if we can build like a certain gap between us and this, whatever the thought is, don't cling to it, we are much more open. Right? Because, hey, what it is just a combination of words, like lyrics in a song. We don't have to build our whole life around particular thoughts because they come and go anyway.
Yeah.
Which
it's
is,
I think
sounds easy, but it's hard.
It's kind of like waves breaking on the shore. Some waves won't be that brilliant. They'll just peter out, and depending on the time of day or the correct environmental conditions, other waves will be kind of almost overwhelming. There'll be almost too much information in there, and it's like, oh, what do I do with all that? And then other waves will be perfect. They'll be perfectly formed, and they'll come out. And it's just being prepared to, if you like, surf every wave and take from that what is most valuable to you at the time. And
if we look at the question, why is that relevant in business? I feel like if we can build a certain gap between our reaction and our thought, right? Noticing that we have a thought, maybe naming it and building some space between it. We have so much more freedom to respond consciously to whatever's happening, like in a business meeting. Instead of saying, oh, I like this idea, now I will do everything to push it forward and defend that idea, or vice versa, I don't like your idea, and then I do everything to convince you being on the wrong path. Listen to me, right? I know the truth. You don't, unfortunately. So that would make, I think, also like collaboration so much easier. And maybe that could be something that people can easily implement or try, because it's hard work, don't get me wrong, and say, oh, it's just a thought. And maybe the week when we have our next LinkedIn Live, because I want to try something during the training, because there's one diffusion method, and that is pick like a thought, in this context concerned public speaking, that is really stressing you. And then in a group, sing it out loud. Sing it to the rhythm of, for example, Happy Birthday, to really stop taking it too seriously. And let's see how it goes. And I will have at least a story to tell if people like that exercise, or if they say that was crazy, stupid. We will find out. It will be a thought to talk about.
You
So
will record
how about
that. So
no, I don't. Maybe secretly, I could ask them. Just this one particular exercise, can we record it? But I bet there will be a difference between what I expect subconsciously and what will happen. And then I definitely will have learned something for the next time. How about going to the next quote? Ready for it? Let's see. Let's see what comes up as the next quote. And the next one is, it's a pretty long one again. Okay, performance anxiety comes from excessive self-focus. Everyone is looking at me. I'm not good enough. What if I fail? What will everyone think of me if I make a mistake? So how about like taking the first sentence? Performance anxiety comes from excessive self-focus. So what do you think about this? What is your first association, thought on self-focus?
it's interesting, because we were just talking earlier about we're going to Phantasialand in Germany for a conference in April.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be great fun. But they have workshop sessions, and they have and each kind of facilitator of the workshop sessions is called a speaker, because I guess not all the workshops will be kind of necessarily up and active like ours will be. So I've just seen this word speaker, kind of immediately thought, oh my God, I have to go with the topic and speak in front of like God knows how many people. And so I felt this imposter syndrome kicking in, going, oh no, what do I talk about, kind of thing. Even though I am very experienced and I know exactly what I'm able to do. I teach presentation skills, so I can do the presentation side. But it's just in that moment, you get caught off guard, and then the anxiety kicks in, and then it does just become about me. Yeah, what about me? Whereas actually, what we teach in presentation skills is like, we want you to be you. When you're presenting, we want you to be you, because that's
Yeah.
what the genuine you is what people will connect with. The authentic you is what people want to see. If they see you trying to kind of bluff your way as a, like trying to be somebody else, like Tony Robbins or whatever, making
Don't try that.
yeah, they're gonna see through it, and they're gonna
Yeah.
feel like heated. Whereas actually, if you can be comfortable being you and accepting that other people will want to see you, that takes so much pressure off your shoulders.
Yeah.
But yeah, so sometimes, but that imposter syndrome can kick in, and judgment. But yeah, be yourself, be your authentic self, be happy with that. You are where you are because of your skills, your experience, your background. Don't try and be anybody else.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. Like a friend of mine, Pascal, he's also like a lad, and sometimes we work in this area of presentation training, and he loves to ask this one question always to the people in the workshops, and the question is, when you go on stage or you have to present in a company, but let's call it quote unquote on stage, even if it's virtual, who do you think is the least important person in the room? Right? And at one point, people realize, well, could it be that it's me, the speaker? Because if you ask the people, usually, unless it's a big fan base or tons of groupies, usually they sit there because they feel I'm the most important person in the room and I want to learn something. So my time is valuable. So speaker, please have something valuable. Show that my time spent here is well worth spent time, right? So from their perspective, you are the least important person in the room, which doesn't mean that you are not a nice person or not relevant. But on the other side, we feel everybody's looking at us, right? And there's a great exercise that I know from my friend, and that is like, you have people on stage in a training, they look at the people before giving a presentation, they are supposed to say nothing. It's just about building eye contact, building connection, as you said. And then short reflection, how did it feel? And they say exactly this. Well, I was getting nervous. Everybody was looking at me. And then I had all the thoughts coming up and I'm clinging to those thoughts, etc. And he said, okay, let's leave the room. They get some instruction and they just change one thing. And this time they're supposed to tell themselves again and again and again, opposed to everybody's looking at me, they tell themselves, I see you. It's different. They shift the perspective. It's not about me anymore, but hey, I see you, I see you, I see the next person in the first row. And that has a dramatic impact because suddenly it becomes all about the audience, right? At the same time, we see that is a theory. To most people, it makes sense. And yet we are fighting this 100,000-year-old brain that is still telling us, everybody's staring at me. And what if I make this one mistake that could cost my life, which it never does unless you have a very special speaking obligation.
And there are very rare occasions where an audience is sitting to watch somebody fail. That's no joy for anybody. Well, if it's a joy for anybody, then they're a sociopath. But 99.99999% of people want to see that person presenting succeed.
Yeah.
They want to learn from that person. That's why they're there. But also, it is, if you were then the presenter, we always say the audience don't know what you don't say. So they don't know if you happen to forget something. Yeah. They don't know that. So just enjoy the moment of sharing. And it's a lot of times it is this idea of presentation. That puts people in their head as well. Like I'm presenting this thing. Like But if you think of it as like sharing information or sharing knowledge with other people, that kind of takes a lot of the ta-da, show busy anxiety out of it. So think of it as sharing information with people and make eye contact with them. You only have to make eye contact with a few people to see faces responding to you to lower your anxiety straight away. And also we say, if it goes wrong, if the technology screws up for whatever reason, don't cover it up, call it out, and just say, okay, from here on in, I'm afraid We're not going to have the PowerPoint. It's just me, and owning up to that kind of, it's careful. If you get where you are in your speech, say it, and the audience they'll appreciate your honesty, basically.
Yeah. I like
you don't
that.
wanna,
I like that.
So you just think, well, he's incompetent, he didn't prepare or whatever. But it's more about being yourself and being comfortable being yourself.
And I like what you said like this. I mean, it's just a change in wording, but sharing, actually, the more I think about it, it feels less stressful than presenting, because presentation comes with this association. Oh no, this will be shiny. It's a big presentation, like a business presentation. No, there's someone who's sharing something like a personal perspective, or like an important new perspective, or personal interpretation of certain data, right? And this is I will try it out, and I will remember that and see specifically in the heat of the moment, how does it relate to the feelings, and how does maybe the perception of the situation changes when you change those words. So thanks for that, and I think that's a good reminder that we have it also in business. I feel
framing and perception, in terms of these things. So if you can try and reframe it in your own head and your own perspective, then that always can help as well.
Yeah. The more perspectives, the better, because then you realize there are multiple ways of looking at it. Absolutely. Cool. Yeah. So let's share another quote.
Yeah.
And see what we have here. And so let's see if we find a short one, if those exist.
Go.
Let's go.
Hey!
Yeah, we did it. When you make a mistake, turn your attention to what comes next. When you make a mistake, turn your attention to what comes next. What comes up in your mind? What pops up in your mind, Gordon, when you hear this? We make a mistake. We have a choice.
Yeah.
Which direction to turn? What speaks for focusing on or turning what's next?
For me, it's not dwelling on the error. Kind of taking the lessons from the error and refocusing them towards how to remove that error in the future. And from a personal perspective, and this is maybe 5 years ago now, I was once in my part of Copenhagen, where I live in Copenhagen, and there's a psychiatric hospital in sort of close by, and this guy came up to me, and he was quite concerned. I could see that he had a condition of some sort, and he asked me where the psychiatric hospital was, and I accidentally, just not really thinking, I kind of thought, oh, it's over that way, because that way was where the hospital was, just the normal hospital. The psychiatric hospital was over the other way, and he left, and I got on the bus, and I was on the way out, and I remembered, and I suddenly felt, oh my God, this poor guy, and it was like, literally every time I take that bus route now, I think of that moment, and and I'm still dwelling on that error. There's nothing I can do about it, but it's almost like it's a hardwired thing now. But if anybody else comes up to me in future, I'll make sure I give them the right direction. But also in any sense, if somebody asks me directions, I won't give advice if I don't know where I'm sending them. So from a small lesson, which is still in here, there's a lot that I can take away, and sort of in terms of my future perspective of like dealing with similar situations. But that was just a personal thing. But it's basically don't dwell on mistakes. Learn from mistakes and then move on. If you see every mistake as just a part of the process, then mistakes just become okay, let's move on. Let's learn from that, move on. Yeah, because you're always going to be, if you want to innovate, then you've got to make mistakes. It's part of the process,
Sure.
If you want to just do stuff, then copy somebody. But if you want to innovate, you have to be prepared that mistakes are going to happen, and mistakes will take you where the success is.
And so at the same time, it seems this is one of these things that seem to be so obvious theoretically, and it's very hard to find people who would disagree with it. And at the same time, the moment where you make a mistake, there's still your old brain, right? And still telling you like, oh, you made a mistake, or there was a failure, or certain flaws, and you easily attempted to dwell on it, evolutionary. There's a reason for it, right? And that's why I think, linking it back to what we said earlier, noticing that thought and then detaching with it as much as possible and say, well, there's a thought. Thanks for the reminder. You don't have to sing it out loud, that thought, every time in public, because otherwise one day I might ask you how to get to the psychiatric hospital. Where's the direction? No, I mean, you do it for a good purpose anyway. And, yeah, and I think like this, what's next is heading towards the future, instead of like focusing what has already happened and we can't change it. It doesn't mean we don't want to look back sometimes and see what we can learn from it. But I think the real application of having made a mistake and learning something happens in the future, right? In the next thing that we can do. And I think that's so much better invested energy. And there's this great quote from Ben Fuhrman, who is actually a psychiatrist. And he's famous for, or he's more or less like one of the quote-unquote founders of solution-oriented or solution-focused coaching / team coaching. And he always said, no one is just him or herself responsible for the problem, but everybody is responsible for the solution, right? And I feel like this is connected to what we are talking about with the mistakes. It's very easy to fall back and then finger point and say, who was it? Whose fault is it that this happened or that happened? And then the blame game begins automatically, right? We start getting defensive, creativity goes down, everybody's coming up with good reasoning, why it's not my mistake, why it's rather yours. There's no creative energy left, and it's very hard to come out of the circle. Instead of saying, okay, there was a mistake, the question is, what do we do next? And it's a completely different direction that guides a conversation, that guides like a project, that guides ideation, because you brought up innovation. And it's a choice we can make, right? Looking back or looking forward.
Yeah, but as soon as we step away from the whose fault was it to what was the fault and what can we do about it, that's us developing as a team as well, because it should never get to the point where one person is purely responsible for such an error that a company's going to come falling down. Which is why we also just recommend, like, if you're trying something new, iterate as frequently. Don't don't have this huge goal for like a 3-year plan of this final amazing thing that that everything in the previous 2-3 years goes towards. Because by the time you get there, it's probably the market has probably changed, or the sentiment is different now. Whereas if you iterate, you can make small mistakes which aren't costly, and learn from them, and then start moving in a better direction. So it's it's so important to keep iterating, keep introducing things as early as possible, test them as early as possible. If they fail, that's a small cost. Let's reorientate, see why that happened, go in a new direction, find a new direction, etc.
Now, directing towards time, I would say let's play a little challenge and bring up one more quote, and each of us is just dropping one sentence, the sentence that pops up in our mind. Okay, let's go for it, and let's see. Oh, that's the shortest one. Perfect. Beyond acceptance is appreciation and thanks. Beyond acceptance is appreciation and thanks. What is your one sentence comment on that, Gordon?
Okay. Beyond acceptance is appreciation and thanks. That's a tester.
It's tough.
Sometimes the shorter they are, the harder it is to answer.
Yep.
It's so much.
Cool. That was your sentence.
You go, and I'll come back to you. I'll give you time to think. No, seriously. Beyond acceptance. Okay. I would say that acceptance is the first step, basically, and beyond, once you pass beyond accepting other people and their ideas and their perspectives, then you can start to appreciate what they offer and the value that they bring, both to your company and to your life and to your own life experience. Full stop.
And my sentence is, I mean, I had a little bit more time than you, but I feel it didn't make my life easier. The more you learn to accept the people around you, the more you will learn about them, their unique perspectives, their unique skills they bring to the table, that it will be inevitably impossible to not start appreciating it, and at one point in your life, thanking them for sharing it with you. Full stop. That being said, Gordon, full stop. We are full stop, 3:30 now, and it was a pleasure, as always, having you here and maneuvering through those quotes that I have to learn, make a little bit shorter in the future. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with not only me, but with us, everybody who's watching this recording. And
talking of recordings, send in questions to us in LinkedIn under the. If you've got any questions, we'd love to have a look at them and answer them for you.
Absolutely. And if you ever want to try out how applying improv feels, right, firsthand, you can do that, because we are running online workshops, like teaser workshops, where you can not only meet people, but you can also get in touch firsthand. Yeah, that's the right one. Firsthand, and learn about the principles, learn about how applying improv in business and life can shape your attitude and shape and sharpening your skills in many ways that you probably won't even expect. And I will show the link here. Just click on the website. I will also show it in a second with our final slide. You're more than welcome. Sign up. And as Gordon said so well, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. If you have any suggestions for future LinkedIn Lives, let us know. We're definitely up for it. And if I don't know how to solve it, well, I have Gordon who will definitely jump in and come up with something.
You might even have some guest speakers coming in the kind of next few weeks. Who knows? So some very interesting people that might even take my place.
Nah, that breaks my heart. No. But they might be coming into the show as well.
They can take my place, but they can stand in as a...
Wonderful. That being said, everybody have a great Thursday, have a great rest of the week, and enjoy watching the videos. And see you next time when it's time for the 6th LinkedIn Live. Gordon, enjoy your day. See you again. Cheers, mate.
For now. Bye-bye, everybody.